dissing, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your chain for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy, then you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, fucking like this, and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Welcome. You're now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fan. Much love to the Who Dats out there in Who Dat land. Much love to the fam. Appreciate y'all joining me for this episode of The Coma. Much love. Had to take a few days off, recharge the batteries. Appreciate you guys for being here on this day. So much love to the fam as we get involved with this one. It's a Derek Carr update and more Saints news and notes covering it. So let's get right on into it. First, please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and by all means, feel free to share the show's links on your social media feed. It helps out the stream big time. So I appreciate you guys for being in this thing as we get ready to drop some news and notes. So on our black and gold. So Derek Carr rumors, we got a few of those. We're going to go over several articles. Also, we're going to look at the numbers on where the Saints are according to Sport Track and over the cap in terms of where they are in terms of the money, as they are working through the contracts to whittle down as much money as they possibly can to get in prime position to lure in Derek Carr. Of course, he is the guy that they have their sights zeroed in on. And of course, everything else they're not looking at, they're focused on Carr because they really do believe they can end up getting Derek Carr. And if they can, we'll see momentarily as things are starting to heat up in the market. Let's get into this latest report here by Bleacher Report as the rumors of former Raiders QB to meet with a handful of teams at the NFL Combine as things start to ratchet up. And this is the report right here. Let me turn it on so you can hear from the man himself, Ian Rappaport, on what's going on with Derek Carr. Here we go.
One of the biggest stories here in Combine Week is not just about the prospects, but about the veteran quarterback, specifically Derek Carr, the former Las Vegas Raiders starting quarterback. Met with a couple teams over the last couple weeks. I am told while we are at Indy here and every team is in Indy, Derek Carr also headed to Indy. Sources say he is expected to meet with a handful of teams here in Indianapolis as he re-kickstarts his free agent process. I would expect him to sign somewhere. I know there are several interested teams before free agency begins, kind of giving him a leg up on everyone else. He's already met with the Saints, already met with the Jets. I know there's some real interest there, so that is expected to continue here in Indy. I know there's also been some discussion about his price tag. Here's what I'm told. This is about fit. I know price will come up. Derek Carr has not had any substantial discussions about price or value with any of these teams. It has been all about fit. That is the most important thing, and we will see, perhaps shortly, where he lands. Meanwhile, in other quarterback news today, Carson Wentz has been released by the Commanders. Really no surprise they move on from him. Actually,
all right, let's stop it right there because we don't really care about Carson Wentz. But outside of that, this is the thing that we met with Carr. It's not a bad idea for him to go and talk to people at the NFL Combine, people that's interested in quarterbacks. Could the Indianapolis Colts be involved, and several other teams could be Tampa Bay. The majority of the teams are at the Combine looking at talent. So, everybody's there. So it's a good idea for him to get involved there and it gives us a deadline between where he believes that this will happen. So you're looking at it. Derek Carr has also met with several teams in Indianapolis, or is to meet with them. He was released by the Raiders back on February 14 after 9 seasons with the team, and he expects Carr to sign somewhere before the NFL free agency, which is March the 15th. That's the date in order to get a leg up on things. So March the 15th, which places us around about 2 weeks to the time frame. So within 2 weeks, we could see a completion to the Carr saga, and if not, the Saints will perhaps start looking at other teams or looking at other quarterbacks rather that might fit where they're going. Now, of course, there were rumors about Baker Mayfield here. Could there be some looking at a guy like Carson Wentz? I hope not. But then again, I think Carson Wentz, a lot of his problem is mental in this game, but hopefully not. So both Jets, Saints have shown some interest in it. Carr has already made over $135 million in his career and will look to sign where he could be the most competitively quickly. So is that the case? The Jets had a losing record last year. So did the New Orleans Saints. Dennis Allen drafted this kid, and of course they feel like that he makes a perfect fit for them in New Orleans. Now, a lot of people are not really enthused about the deal, although I think Derek Carr is not a bad quarterback, multiple Pro Bowl quarterback, has a big arm, could throw downfield, could still offer you a lot of things there. And not too much shaking on the QB market, on the QB front. When we start talking about other quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, the Saints will have to surrender draft capital. And then, of course, get ready for a big fat contract. If is that the case, will they be able to do them? So the likelihood of something like that happening, I don't see that happening. But for Derek Carr, they've shown a vested interest in Derek Carr. They're going to make sure the money is there for Derek Carr, and they're going to do everything they can to woo him to the New Orleans Saints. I don't think the Saints, if they do miss out on Carr, it won't be because they didn't try to give him whatever they felt that he needed or he wanted. It would be rather because Carr seemed a better fit somewhere else. So we'll see how that goes. In March the 15th, we got roughly a couple of weeks to go on the Carr saga before it comes to a end, and we'll find out whether or not Carr is the guy right before free agency opens up. So will the Saints have another starting quarterback at the helm? Speaking of quarterback or ex-quarterback, Jameis Winston still preparing for the possibility of staying with the Saints in 2023. Is there a possibility? Is there a scenario where Jameis Winston, and if the Saints procure or sign Carr to the team, is there a possibility that Jameis competes with Carr and stays on the team? I say absolutely not. You're not going to pay Carr north of $35 million or whatever it is that he's commanding to compete with somebody. When he comes to the Saints, it will be simply because the Saints have promised him the quarterbacking job. You will have none of this type of stuff here, that, and the third. And if the Saints do reach into free agency to sign a backup, more than likely it'll be Andy Dalton. That'll be the guy. And if they're smart, they'll draft a quarterback in the draft high. Maybe not with the first round pick, maybe with the second round pick. Maybe a couple of these quarterbacks drop according to the combine, some of the Pro days. It happens. So will that happen? We'll see in time. But Jameis Winston, the possibility of him remaining the Saints in 2023. Let's go over this article right here. Winston isn't making plans for a future outside of New Orleans just yet. Injuries derailed his season, and he suffered that fractured vertebrae that caused him to be inactive for 2 weeks. Even after he healed up, he never returned to the field. He was benched in favor of Andy Dalton, relegated to backup duties, but despite his current position, Winston is not counting himself out. He says, technically, I'm not a free agent just yet. I have 1 more year under contract. This is what he told the guys at the HBC Legacy Bowl. My main thing right now is making sure I just stay healthy and be ready to play. That's the only thing that's on my mind. I've got to be ready to play because when given an opportunity, I look forward to taking advantage of it. Now, Winston's entering the second year of a 2-year contract with the Saints. So if all else stays as it is, he'll be on the roster for at least 1 more year. But New Orleans could release him after the new league year begins with a post-June 1st designation, saving the Saints having to pay his non-guaranteed portion of his salary, which is almost $13 million, if they don't see him being a part of the QB equation in 23. This would be the smart move, as it would wind up freeing up some capital. $13 million is a lot of money. You don't think the Saints are looking to kind of get that going? And of course, I don't think they release Jameis Winston until after they procure Derek Carr. So that's what we're looking at here. I don't think Jameis stays on this team, and I'm going to just keep it honest with you. It'll benefit the Saints to get the $13 million by designating him as a post-June 1st cut. And, and that's a part of it. So I don't see a scenario where you see Carr and Jameis on this team at the same time. I just don't see that. The Saints definitely need the $13 million from Jameis's contract, to add to whatever the team's going into the future. So, no, if Carr is the quarterback and Dennis Allen is definitely going after him and they sign him, Jameis Winston will be released. He would be designated as such. So I don't see that happening. The only way Jameis stays, in my estimation, is if they miss out on Carr, they miss out on the second guy, whoever that may be, and Jameis would probably be the best bet to stay there on the team until that time. But I think they're headed for a split eventually, and I think Jameis is just taking more of a positive approach to it. And he's right; he still is the quarterback on this team until the Saints decide otherwise. But possibly complicating the situation, the Saints QB room is currently in limbo with no indication yet of who could be the starter for next season. Dalton is a free agent. And on the other QB option is Taysom Hill, though the Swiss Army knife tight end didn't start a game at quarterback last year. So Saints did host Derek Carr on a visit early this month. And after the release, no guarantee New Orleans will be his final landing spot, which he rebuked the trade that the Saints had that they were going to give the Raiders. He decided not to give them any compensation and hit free agency. With no clear option at the quarterback yet, the Saints are moving forward, and there's a chance they could decide on keeping Winston for the time being. And I think that is definitely the case. Keeping them until the time being. They will not relinquish or let Jameis Winston go until after they procured the services of one Derek Carr. As soon as Derek Carr is signed and officially signed and sealed, not too long thereafter, Jameis Winston will be released, and the Saints will try to get that $13 million from Jameis so they can add to building offense around him and adding some more pieces to the Saints puzzles, both offensive and defensive. All right, so let's move on to the next article right here, and this is coming from The Wire. It's Tanoh Kpassagnon's agent announces contract extension with the Saints. This is from The Wire, and he signs back. This is a bit of I ain't gonna say it's a surprise for me. I mean, this is a good cheap deal for Tanoh Kpassagnon. He has dual ability, even though the Saints see him at the inside. I mean, on the outside, on the edges. Could this guy be the guy that kind of act as the replacement option for a Davenport, or simply just a key reserve that the Saints could use? Perhaps Saints finally realize maybe they can do well at moving Kpassagnon inside every now and again to kind of help out with the interior defensive line positions. I don't see Kpassagnon as a competent, or not a competent, but a consistent pass rushing threat outside on the defensive line to complement Cam. So, the Saints made a move and signed him. And we talked about them getting a veteran to help out in the pass rush area. This could be a situation where the Saints are going to use a defensive end by committee. Marcus Davenport is a free agent, and you're also dealing with David Onyemata on the inside. Is Kpassagnon simply an option? A reserve option there to kind of be a depth piece for what could be a Peyton Turner and Carl Granderson situation at the end. Could that be the case? Time will tell. There's New Orleans Saints have signed defensive tackle or defensive lineman Tanoh Kpassagnon to a contract extension, according to his representative. Now, Kpassagnon's agent did not discuss the terms of the agreement. Now, they did come out via, I think it came out to $6 million or something like that. That was according to Ian Rappaport. I think Rappaport dropped that there. So he's been a good player in a rotation along the line there for a while. And the Saints, he's done a positive stuff. Let me see if I can locate that. Give me a second, fam. Let me see if I can find that tweet right there by Ian Rappaport, because Rappaport did release the numbers on Tanoh Kpassagnon's contract. Let me see if I can find that and put that in the chat for the family members so they can see that. So give me just a second. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, there he is. I think his contract is there. Hold on, just give me a second. He tweeted it not too long ago. So, and we covered this. We played what he's saying about Carr already, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the Saints just kind of add in depth there as well. And here it is right here. It's a 2-year deal worth $6 million that includes 2.5 fully guaranteed. And he had a couple of sacks for the Saints. So this is from Ian Rappaport on what the contract looked like for Tanoh Kpassagnon. So some depth there, a sturdy veteran for the Saints to try to get something going along with Peyton Turner. Does Peyton Turner get an opportunity to compete there? Carl Granderson is also there. Now you got Tanoh Kpassagnon. Do the Saints add some help through the draft? Only time will tell. All right, it's another restructuring on par, and there'll be more coming. Saints restructured Tyrann Mathieu's contract to create $4.6 million in cap space, and this is something they talk about. Tom Pelissero was the one that talked about the Saints restructuring Tyrann Mathieu's contract, clearing $4.6+ million into the 2023 salary cap space as they continue to kind of hammer away things. So they chip away another negative cap charge. Saints have restructured Tyrann Mathieu's deal to save that money. Saints now sitting north of $30 million over a cap. This also means we can expect to see Tyrann Mathieu play out his entire 3-year deal with the team after moving money further down the road. The Saints only restructured players they see as a part of the roster for the future. Future moves that we can expect to see: the Saints releasing Jameis Winston, restructuring or releasing Andrews Pete, figure out what they can do with Michael Thomas. The Saints will also have little restructures like Matthews to help to get the cap in the green. Saints once again are almost cap compliant. They haven't had to cut anyone just yet, and a couple more now. They have a couple other people that the Saints will be kind of getting close to. Andrews Pete is a guy that we're looking at. Jameis Winston most certainly will be released. Andrews Pete, I believe, will be released. I think David Onyemata will be resigned, in my opinion. The Saints have 3 guys they're looking at resigning: Caden Ellis, Juwan Johnson, which is restricted. Hopefully they can resign Caden Ellis, and David Onyemata, get him done as well. So that's just a few of them. So the Saints still got some work to do chipping away. All right, on to the next one. Reggie Bush asked Lamar Jackson, why not sign with New Orleans? And that's Reggie Bush out there doing his due diligence. As you can see, Reggie Bush's Twitter. Come on, LJ, we got you. And they got the guy with the graphic representation of Lamar Jackson. Let me tell you something. That looks really good to see him in black and gold, man. That's what he was originally supposed to be in. Had Sean Payton. That's right. Sean Payton drafted Lamar Jackson as opposed to Marcus Davenport. This is what he would have looked like. We wouldn't have had the issue of talking about Lamar Jackson. We need a quarterback. We would have had him here working on this deal, and I think this would have been a lot of, matter of fact, I would say if Sean Payton did draft Lamar Jackson, it would have changed the outlook of the Saints, because he would have sat behind Drew Brees for a couple of years. And when Drew Brees got hurt that time, Lamar Jackson could have moved in, and then ultimately would have hastened Drew's him retiring. He wouldn't have stayed on those extra 3 years on the back end of his career if Lamar Jackson was waiting in the wings. It would have hastened Drew off into retirement, or at least he would have went on somewhere else, and Lamar Jackson's reign would have started, and Sean Payton would have won. It changes everything. Sean Payton would have went anywhere. You got Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. He would still be here. It changes the trajectory of the entire franchise. Had the Saints made one choice, or made one better choice in drafting a quarterback over picking up Marcus Davenport out of UTSA. So it'll be good to see Reggie Bush embrace the ABC philosophy, always be Cruton. And the fan favorite from New Orleans is asked the questions, and that's on their mind: why not sign Lamar Jackson? Why not sign with the Saints? And of course, we know that it's not impossible, but improbable, I think, that the Saints would do that unless they miss out on Carr. Could the Saints swing for the fences and go for Lamar Jackson? Remember what they did with last year with Deshaun Watson. Could that be a similar stratagem? I don't think they miss out on Carr unless Carr says, no, I want to go to one of these other teams. And perhaps they jump in the race, but they still have so much to do in terms of draft capital and freeing up even more money to try to set up a play where they go for Lamar Jackson. So it's going to be that's not improbable, but I don't think it's impossible, but more improbable than that. So to land Lamar's got to have a reason to come to the Saints. What's the drawing card for Lamar Jackson to come to New Orleans? At one point, it might have been Sean Payton. It could have been Sean Payton. I mean, really, it truly could have been. But at the same time, what's the drawing card? To play for Dennis Allen? To come here and work underneath Pete Carmichael? What's the drawing card to get him here? The Saints are not the same as they were when Sean Payton was heading to things. They were a juggernaut. And there's less confidence in the Saints because Dennis Allen sits on top of the team. He's not a person that people want to run to play for. Look at Derek Carr. Carr was drafted by Dennis Allen. And if he wanted to be with him so much, he would probably end up doing this thing. But we'll see how it all shakes on that front. But the Lamar Jackson thing, I knew this thing would come back and bite us in the rear when we drafted Davenport over him, and it was only a matter of time. Now everybody wants to rewrite history and bring Lamar Jackson onto the team. It'll be interesting to see. I would really love to see Lamar Jackson in the black and gold. He looks really good in this graphic here. But at the end of the day, I don't think Lamar's destination is New Orleans, unfortunately. So anyway, let's keep it moving. NFL team reportedly proposes making roughing the passer penalties reviewable. How do you guys feel about that? Roughing the passer penalties become a major part of controversy in the NFL in recent years. It certainly has. At least one team is hoping to add some more accountability to the situation. Now, they come up with all these rule changes, all of these damn rule changes, but at the end of the day, you can give them 1 million camera views, and you can give them time to stop the game, look at plays, and they'll still rule. I've seen countless times where they'll have an opportunity to see the play from several different vantage points and still get it wrong. Purposefully. It's like a lot of these plays, they just get it wrong. So it's just what's the point of making roughing the passer reviewable? They'll still do the same thing they've been doing. So according to Judy Batista of NFL.com, the team has proposed making roughing the passer penalties reviewable, with the NFL Competition Committee set to discuss the matter further on this past Monday. So Mark Mask of Washington Post reported that the team is in question was the Rams. Such a measure faces long hours. However, per the report, the early indication is a little appetite in the room for making it reviewable because they don't want to slow the game down. They don't want to slow the game down. They want to keep the game going and flowing. And that's a part of why some of these calls, like you can't make everything reviewable because they don't want to say, okay, you made roughing the passer reviewable. Why not make this reviewable or that reviewable? And then it opens up sort of a Pandora's box in their minds. Such a measure faces those long guys. So the committee reportedly already reviewed 80 roughing the passer penalties and only found 3 that deemed potentially questionable calls. Now, I know I've seen more than just 3. If you review all of the penalties, they had more than 3. And see, that's what I'm saying. They look at it and underscore it. Part of the ongoing debate is sling versus slam on the hits of the quarterback, with Batista noting that the slam is problematic when a defender picks up the QB in midair and slams him on the ground. Slinging is more considered a natural. Considered a natural progression. Batista added that the competition committee won't approve making roughing the passer penalties reviewable, but noted that the proposal will still go in front of owners for the league meeting in March, and I guarantee you to be shot down. The committee reportedly spent 90 minutes in general discussion officiating, a major topic trying to foster more consistency between different crews. They always do this every year, and it doesn't change anything. The calls get worse and worse and worse because the officials get most of the blame as the part-time people that they are. In this league, they get the blame for it when it's the rules. The rules are gray. They are in gray area, too much gray area there, too much inconsistency in these calls, not enough penalties to referees to make them get fired or lose their jobs or take pay cuts. None of that is in there. So if you're really serious about fixing the problems with referees, start penalizing them like you penalize the players or the owners if they step out of line. Why are the NFL referees that really truly impact games, why aren't they penalized? Like what happened with the referee getting his autograph from Mike Evans that time for the New Orleans Saints. Then he lies and says he was talking about golf. Why weren't the referees penalized for that? You see? Just a question. Why would they penalize for that? Because, it's just bull crap. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance to win in the NFL, says Troy Vincent. In other words, elite quarterback play draws intrigue, and intrigue draws ratings. So don't expect the league to soften its stance on protecting quarterbacks or put officials interpreting those rules under additional scrutiny by subjecting their calls to replay review anytime soon, which is basically giving you a warning to tell you that, hey, man, what you see out on there, just expect more of it. And then, of course, they're going to pass it off like a lot of the bad calls are just, the errors in calls are just human error. In actuality, some of those calls are human error, and a lot of those calls are not human error. A lot of those bad calls benefit the line. The NFL will never admit to that. Only people who know what they're looking at understands that the manipulation of these professional football games happen through the referees. That's how they manipulate the games. The only way to take the referee out of the game is if Team A blows out Team B, and that literally removes the referee. So the games you have games where the score is within 7 or 10 points of each other. And then they're allowed they operate and start throwing all these flags and all these calls start happening to kind of mess with the game. But when you blow teams out, that removes the dirty referee play. That's how the New Orleans Saints were able to win so many games under Sean Payton, because he knew to run up the score to keep that away from the referees, keep it out of their hands. All right, let's look at the final here, family. Let's go over this as well as we talk about the Saints salary cap situation. Still a lot of salary to structure. Of course, you got stuff like, and you can see this list right here. They got Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, Andres Pete, Alvin Kamara, Jameis Winston is there, Taysom Hill, Michael Thomas. So if you want to say Demario Davis even too. So if you're looking at saying Q, who's next on the list for restructuring? I'm giving them to you right now. Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, Andres Pete, and Jameis Winston is on the list. These could be potential releases straight up. I know Jameis's release situation happening as soon as they get Derek Carr under contract and guaranteed. Jameis is going to be put in the street for the $13 million that he'll get the Saints back. Andres Pete, I think Andres Pete's time here is whittling down big time. I think this is the year where you might get Andres Pete. He might get cut. There's also Alvin Kamara on there. They can work his money down. Taysom Hill, they're going to see about working him. Mike Thomas is another guy people are looking at getting cut. And, of course, Demario Davis is another guy that's also on this list. So the Saints still have those players to be able to whittle money out of to get to the cap. And as you can see right here, according to Sport Track, it's showing you that the Saints are just under $30 million, just under, in the red by $30 million. Now over the cap has it situated at just over $30 million. So they're right around the same time frame, both of them around $30 million. The Saints need more to kind of cut on down more. And I gave you the list of the next few people that you could possibly see that'll be a part of that cut. So let's recap the show right here. Derek Carr, rumors, we read about him being at the NFL Combine. He'll meet with several teams, and it also provides us a time frame in which the Carr sweepstakes will end March the 15th. He wants to be done before free agency starts, which is a good thing for him to be there and talking to all these different clubs that could be possibly looking for a veteran leadership. Carr could be a guy that this is a good stratagem for him to meet with teams all at one central location. So not a bad philosophy by Carr to go and do this. And we'll see. And so, like I said, the next 2 weeks we'll figure out where Carr goes and if the Saints is his interest or if that's his landing spot. We also talked about Jameis Winston preparing for the possibility of staying with New Orleans. The only way, in my humble opinion, that this does occur if the Saints miss out on Carr and their second best option and decide that, hey, let's just keep Jameis for a year and run it back. Very unlikely scenario because I think Dennis Allen already showed Jameis that he doesn't want him as his starting quarterback. He didn't want him last year. They settled for him when they missed out on Deshaun Watson. I think everybody feels the same way. Jameis Winston, they didn't even want to see what he had when they could have had a chance to play them against the Carolina Panthers in the season finale. They put Andy Dalton in there. It kept Jameis on the bench well after he was off the injury report once he came back to football. So that showed me everything you needed to know. The verbiage that you heard with Jeff Ireland, them coming out, how they were talking, and then the aggressive movements by the Saints to go after Carr as aggressive and as ferociously as they did. The only team trying to actually pull off a trade with the Raiders to get Carr to the team, in which he was able to nix the deal. So they're definitely desperately trying to make a move to kind of hitch that quarterback. And we know Jameis is not the guy, and expect Jameis to be cut right after they secure the services of one Derek Carr. So you're looking at right around the start of free agency, Jameis is probably going to get released. So we got some time frames on that. So anyway, and this is the Tanoh Kpassagnon extends out with the Saints. He gets his new contract. Ian Rappaport reports that it's a 2-year deal worth $6 million with 2.5 of it guaranteed, as Tanoh Kpassagnon comes back to the black and gold on 2 years. And does Kpassagnon project as a starting defensive end or simply a reserve option while you have guys like Peyton Turner and Carl Granderson fighting for it? So what do you guys think there? Does Tanoh Kpassagnon excite you as the opposite end? Also, the restructuring of Tyrann Mathieu's contract to free up almost $4.7 million in cap savings for the black and gold on this move, and they got more. We talked about Reggie Bush trying to push Lamar Jackson to the Saints. I would love to see that. That'll kind of rewrite and fix things from a historical standpoint when the Saints decided to not draft him and draft Davenport. Thanks a lot, Peyton. But at the end of the day, if this happens this way, this will be fantastic. It's just in my opinion, it's a long shot for Lamar Jackson to land up here. We also talked about NFL reportedly proposing making roughing the passer penalty reviewable. You heard basically Troy Vincent, who's the assistant there, basically say, the assistant rules guy there, basically saying that, this will be shot down because it opens up, in their opinion, Pandora's box, and they have to have a certain amount. The rules are written and they operate with a lot of gray area, to be honest with you. And they like that. They like operating in the gray area. What's a catch? What's not a catch? What's a sack? What's not a sack? Everything has gray area to it. And that's where they were able to allow the referees to play within that gray area and make calls that manipulate games in the favor of the line, whatever Vegas has. And that's the reality that you got to look at this stuff, because all of these betting apps, this was the worst year I've ever seen with NFL officiating. It's doing the same thing in the NBA. It's just ugly, dirty, corrupt, rotten, underhanded officiating that you see. And it's just terrible, man. It's absolutely horrible. And of course, the salary cap situation for the Saints, they're $30 million in the red, according to both SportTrack and Over the Cap. So with that being said, fam, that's going to be the stream. I'd like to thank you guys. Shout out to all you guys in the chat. Appreciate you being here. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button as we will return. Now, later on today, we'll be on our Patreon special. If you want to join us on our Patreon special, please feel free to look in the description section or simply put in www.patreon.com/the Pro Media Network to join that way, or you can simply hit the join button on YouTube to join the stream so you can be able to see our On Cue with Big Q show through Patreon. You got to join there. Or our TSC Q&A live show, Saints show on Tuesdays. If you want to do that, that'll help out and help build the platform. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for chiming in this one. Y'all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll holler at you a little later. Peace and who dat.
Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who dat. I'm a who dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a who dat. Lose or winning, I'm a who dat. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a who dat. I'm a who dat. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shade for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy, then you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, running like this, and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that at. Where we do that at. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that at. Boogie like this and I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
WhoThatDaily.com. That's right, the WhoThatDaily.com. Your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, LSU Tigers, even the top flight boxing news. So if you're a Who That and you're looking for a place to stay up on your team, the WhoThatDaily.com is your site. The WhoThatDaily.com for the sport Who That in all of us. Pro Shop, that's right, the Pro Shop is the platform store where you can go and buy all the latest merch to support the platform. Available at the Pro Shops, we have dozens of hundreds of products available for you and your family. Unisex tees for men and women, hoodies and sweatshirts, tank tops, kids and baby items, long sleeve tees, mugs, pillows, wall art, bath bedding, face masks, phone cases, stickers, bags, fanny packs, socks, hats, and many other items. Please feel free to check out the Pro Shops. The link is in the description section below. And remember, it helps the